And hello everybody, the Atomic Weasel coming at you. Another day in paradise. I'm on my way to work, and I thought I'd drop a new segment into my channel, where as everybody knows, or those of you who watch my videos know, I'm a vocal opponent of SUVs and in general too many cars. I mean, this is a prime example. Imagine how prettier this part of town would be if there weren't so many cars. I'm not going to do a rant on bad car drivers. No. What I'm going to do, rather than ranting about how bad car drivers in my videos, I'm going to have a section totally devoted to rants about all sorts of things, in a new section called Atomic Rants. So today it's Fonterra. Now, those of you who know about Fonterra and what Fonterra is the brand name of the dairy industry here in New Zealand. Now, I worked for them for approximately 10 years, and over that time I got to know the ins and outs of the business itself. Now, everybody has this image of New Zealand as being this clean, green place, and generally it is. But what a lot of people don't know is the dairy industry in this country is befouling our environment. And it's not been something that's just been happening over the last few years. It's been going on for decades. The cows themselves are the leading cause of methane gas emissions in this country, or CO2 emissions. They are horrendous, and it's not the farting, it's the burping and the pooping and also the peeing. What the dairy industry causes is nitrates, excess nitrates to go through into the soil, and if they aren't taken up by the plants, then this runs along the oh dear Lord. You're actually going to wait till he turns in front of you. Maybe this rant should be about bad drivers. I need to get away from this guy before he does my head in. So anyway, so the nitrogen doesn't get taken up by the plants. It goes right along the rock strata into our water system, into our groundwater and into our river system. Rivers in this country, especially around this part of the Manawatu, aren't really safe to swim in. Although they're lovely, you look through them and they're absolutely beautiful, but you don't want to be swimming in them because you can get very, very sick. This is caused by, not entirely, but mostly by the amount of nitrates coming into the soil and not being absorbed by the plants. Now, the dairy industry itself has changed over the last few decades. It used to be run by the New Zealand Dairy Board until they decided to become a brand, and that's when Fonterra was born. And I've worked for both iterations, both when it was controlled by the Dairy Board and again when it became Fonterra. I believe the dairy industry in this country are ethically unsound. I know the fact because when I was working initially in the dairy industry, and this was just, this is probably 20 years ago, at 2 o'clock in the morning I was authorised to dump 500,000 litres of raw whey into the Manawatu River. Now, for those of you who don't know what whey is, it is the liquids from milk. So there's curds and whey. Curds is the solid, whey is the liquids. So it gets separated into its components, and 500,000 litres. We couldn't process it because of a hold-up. We had no way to store it, and I was authorised by my manager to dump it. and it was dumped illegally into the Manawatu River at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, while I was working in the factory, that happened, to my knowledge, at least 10 times. Now the volumes altered. There might have been a little bit, might have been a lot more. Sometimes it was a lot more. But the fact that it was this undiluted milk product was allowed to be dumped into the Manawatu River unchecked, and it was done on a regular basis, as I said. It just shows the lack of consideration the industry takes for the environment. It's all about profit. But these nitrates are leaching into the soil. No, it's destroying our environment, destroying our waterways. That has to stop. There's been a large push for dairy because of the profit margins you can make. There's got to get to a point where you can have to put the environment over money. You really have to. And considering the size of the dairy industry in New Zealand, I'm just astounded that we can't buy cheese and milk for cheap, because this is where it comes from. It's cheaper to buy New Zealand wine and cheese in the UK than it is to buy in New Zealand. What sort of world is that happening in? But the dairy industry in this country, when Fonterra was initially made, they were promising, you know, milk solid payouts to the farmers of about $7 to $8. They've never ever done that. They've never made that amount of money, paid that amount of money out to the farmers. $4 or $5 a kilo, I think, was the max, but they were promising up to $8 in milk solids, and that's how the farmers get paid. You know, it's not in litres of milk; it's in the percentage of milk solids in their in the milk itself. So, but they've never done that, and it's forced farmers into a position where they've got no option but to continue working because they can't afford not to. And this spiral is continuing, and it will continue in this country unless something's done about it. Fonterra are evil. They are environmentally inept, and they are led purely by the dollar. In a country where our environment is an asset, they are without a doubt one of the worst offenders in environmental damage. And unless something is done about it, New Zealand's waterways are just going to get worse and worse and worse. I mean, how much worse can it get when you can't even swim in the river on the chance of getting sick? I mean, you can't even, you're not even really, they don't really let you want to have you put your dog in there either, just in case your dog gets sick. I mean, for goodness sake, what sort of image is that portraying for New Zealand? So yeah, Fonterra, the dairy industry of New Zealand, nothing but pure unadulterated evil, and I mean it. They know the damage they're doing, but they don't care because they're led by the almighty dollar. So that is the atomic rant over. Fonterra sucks. Hope you all have a nice day. Take care now and ride safe.